Good evening to everybody, or good late afternoon. It depends on your time zone and also on your state of mind. But we are here thanks to Institute of Documentary Film and Jihlava International Documentary Film Festival, which is bringing you this discussion dedicated to issue related to European cinema. Does European cinema exist? If it's in good condition or not, and what we can do for being it better today and in next years. I'm very happy that together with me are here 4 emerging producers. You know, emerging producers, it's a program organized by Jihlava Documentary Film Festival dedicated to new generation of European documentary film producers. And up to the moment, up to now, we have selected 164 producers, and all of them you can find on the website, emergingproducers.com. What's actually a good tool if you are searching, for example, for co-productions. This year, we will announce the 10th selection, so we will soon enter the 10th edition of this incredible project I'm very happy for. And I'm also very happy that together with me, we have 4 producers coming from different parts of Europe, from different countries, different sizes, and also different experiences. And I'm very curious what they think about and how they feel as European producers. So I'm very happy that I can introduce you Anamaria Antoci from Romania, Jasmina Sijerčić from France, Radim Procházka from Czech Republic, and Pedro Fernandes Duarte from Portugal. So please, it's very strange because we don't know if anybody is watching us, but supposedly yes. So please, first of all, if we are sitting by computers, so everybody can Google you immediately. But if you can introduce yourself by 1 or 2 sentences, you want to be seen by professionals, by people who are thinking seriously about cinema. And the second thing, if you tell us the situation at the moment, I mean the state of pandemic in your country, because everybody is interested. As far as we know, only in France, people are demonstrating for closed cinemas, yes. But what's the situation more in general? And I also would like to greet not only professionals attending ISDOC platform, but also the viewers, the audience of Jihlava's Echoes, because this program is part of both events for professionals, but also for regular audience. You know, Jihlava is having Echoes, some kind of shorter program based on the programming from last year in the Czech Republic, but also in Belgium. And since this Thursday in France and from Friday in US. So we have through different Facebook profiles connected to different audiences. So it's good that we are not talking only to professionals, but to people who are really interested in the question, what does European cinema look like? And if they should somehow relate to or not. So please, Anamaria, if you can start with your introduction, how you want to be seen by others.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Marek, for the kind introduction, and thank you for the invitation. How I would like to be known or seen by the others would be as a producer passionate about international co-productions, working more in author-driven films, features, and documentaries, and slowly stepping into drama series also, hoping that the industry will, in my country, Romania, will also open more to series. And currently in Romania, since last week, I would say that the cinemas unfortunately are closed again. They've been like opening and closing depending on the rate of infection, going under or above the red line. So this is it, same as Czech Republic, but fortunately we have this amazing news today that Romania has its first Oscar nomination ever, thanks to a documentary, to Collective by Alexander Nanau. So at least we have a very important event to celebrate.
Great, thank you very much, Anamaria. And please, Jasmina, what is the situation in France?
So situation in France, as you said, is quite particular because I'm not French. I'm originally from Bosnia and Herzegovina, so I'm also an intruder into French society. So I'm watching it also from as if I were watching it with your eyes. I'm getting to know them every day, day by day, better and better. And I'm quite amazed, surprised how actually people do get involved quickly and they express their opinions publicly and they manifest even when it's not allowed to gather and to go out to make demonstrations. For the moment, the situation is blocked in a way that cinemas are closed, all cultural institutions are closed. It has been like this since last year, March last year. There was a small short period when they were open after the summer, but the second lockdown closed them and it hasn't reopened yet. This weekend, there was a quite nice event that was driven by ACID, which is an association of independent directors who also curate a slot at Cannes Film Festival called ACID, so probably you know, and also with another group of independent cinemas that they opened for this weekend as a protest, few cinemas in few cities, and programmed films to show their opinion about the actual situation. And the Ministry of Culture is not saluating this, of course, these actions. So we don't know yet what will happen. They tell us that progressively we're going to enter into the opening stage, but we don't know exactly what does it mean when it is. And so yes, it's unknown. We are in an unknown world.
Yes, nobody knows when cinemas will open. And what about yourself? Please tell us how you want to be.
I'm sorry. Yes. So I'm come from Bocalupo Films. It's an independent production company based in Paris, and I myself also would like to be seen as somebody open to international co-productions. Actually, since I joined my team in Bocalupo Films, almost all my films are being produced as international co-production. And then I can say they have been produced as European co-productions because for the time being, we have produced on our continent. So maybe we do represent some kind of European cinema, I don't know, which is not the only thing I want to be labeled with. It's most about the encounters with directors or with producers who inspire me to go further into discussions with them and try to make something together. So the horizon is broad. I'm open to other connections.
Thank you very much. Pedro, please, if you can share with us the Portuguese experience and your vision of cinema.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I don't know if it's a Portuguese vision, but it's a bit of my vision at least, or I try. Well, I think I would like to be seen, if we can put it that way, as someone who does things differently, or at least in a non-standardized way. I think it really depends on each film's needs, and each film has a different model of production that we need to invent every time to make the film original and unique. And now, after some years of having founded my company here in Lisbon, I think that's what characterizes us, the way we work, and the directors that work with me and I work with them. I think that's it. We try to do it every time. We think as if it was the first time we are making a film, as if we were inventing cinema or something like that. So we don't have like a script in terms of production that we follow. Our situation here in Portugal was very bad in terms of COVID some months ago. It has improved a lot now. I think it was really high and then it went really low because we've been locked in the houses for, well, I think since the New Year's Eve almost. Everything was closed. It was very radical. The thing is, for cinema, we have a much broader problem and vast problem that comes from before. We have very few theaters, film theaters in Portugal. In fact, independent movie theaters, I would say we have maybe 3 or 4 in the entire country that screen films every day in an independent way. We have, of course, many other cinemas, but they belong to multinationals or they are part of bigger groups. So COVID has closed all theaters, and we think they will be opening in April. But the issue is bigger than that. It's really the pandemic just made more severe something that was already not very positive, which was perhaps there's not enough audience, or perhaps there's not enough investors and companies that believe there is an audience so that cinemas could exist in a more normal way. There were so many cinemas in the past. There's so few. That's the main thing we're thinking about right now.
Okay, thank you for the moment. And please, Radim, coming back to Prague, where eDoc platform is taking place, even online, virtually at the moment. So how would you describe yourself as a producer? And please share also details about the current situations of cinema in the Czech Republic.
Okay, hello, good evening. So I would like to be recognized still as an emerging producer, although it's sometimes since I'm emerging myself into this world. And so on the other hand, I would like to be emerged enough as an international partner, because I also do international co-productions. And I would generally say that those who are interesting for me are minorities in many sense of that word, meaning art house films, fiction, documentary, and also animation. Documentaries in general, I do also genre films like wildlife, for example, and the animations, as I mentioned, within animations I do stop motion, this traditional Czech technique, I would say. So that's something brief about myself and about situation in our country. It's really tough question. It's we call it Czech Bergamo at the moment, a year after pandemic started, and with the vaccination going on globally, we are the worst in COVID, as we ironically say, quoting our Prime Minister, best in COVID. He named it in the spring, but now it's ironically true that we are really the worst. For example, comparing with Romania, we have double, 2 times more deaths, counting to the number of inhabitants than Romania. So, but for me personally, to be honest, it's not such a big deal, since most of my projects are in the stage of writing, let's say. So in that sense, pandemic, even historically, is good good time to, you can lock yourself and write and think, and you are not so much disrupted from the other things. And also our film fund is quite helpful in that sense, that there are some special calls which should help us survive and work and develop things. So that's on the other hand, let's say, positive thing which I can say about the situation in Czech Republic.
Yes, we are very much locked in ourselves in the past year, but luckily not only. I would like to add what I didn't say, because it's pretty obvious, but not for everybody, that Emerging Producers Program is dedicated for documentary film producers. But of course, that doesn't mean that these producers are producing only documentary, but necessarily documentaries. Yeah, and then of course different types of film formats and projects. Definitely, this is one information. The second information is, and this will be the last information, like as a promotion, that for those producers who are watching us and might be interested in the program, you can apply for the program for this year's edition, and the deadline is last March. So please check the website emergingproducers.com, even if you are not searching for co-production, but for more information about the call. But coming back to the issue we will discuss immediately, for everybody who is watching us and has any question, please write it in the chat whenever you are, and my colleagues will deliver me your question so I can ask it to my dear colleagues. And back to the issue of reviving the European cinema. I have to say that when we were discussing if there is something we want to share with professionals and with audience during this talk or not, it came on my mind the talk with Agnieszka Holland during at the end of last year when she was taking the presidency of European Film Academy. And I will translate, so it's not that quote, but I will translate what she said in an interview during European Film Awards taking place in December last year. So she said that independent film and art film festivals has left audience 20 years ago in Europe, has resigned on the way how to tell stories to the wide audiences. And the vacuum, which it results in vacuum, which took the TV companies and streaming services. She also said that Europe has a delay of 10 or 15 years comparing to US film production, and that the US streamers has created a colony from Europe. And the only solution is to found a European streaming platform which will be, dedicated to European audiences. She also said that we have lost completely the young generation many years before COVID. And the only way how to change it, according to Agnieszka Holland, is to start to make better films, which are really based on reality, which are brave in terms of artistic approach, filmmaking, but also talking to audience, to critics, and to festivals together. She also shared her personal experience that she's sitting in many festival juries, and she feels that the European films are done in lazy style, always repeating themselves, and that we really need to change the spirit of European cinema. She sees that in Europe there are many artists which really want to leave their comfort zone and do something radical, but she doesn't see creative space for them. So it's, after many years, pretty radical speech. And I think it's interesting to think about European cinema in this way. And that's why we have invited you as a promising voices of different parts of Europe in terms of European cinema. What you think if European cinema is lazy and repeating itself or not? What do you do? Did you lose your audiences and you're just focusing on festivals, which are really not in mindset of most of the people? Who want to start?
I can start.
Pedro, yes, please.
I don't mind if nobody wants to start. Well, I think it's important to, when we discuss any topic, to distinguish between what is the problem and what is the proposition of solution. And in that sentence that you translated, I think the problem is identified, but we must not jump into conclusions immediately as we identify the problem and we immediately say which the solution would be. I pretty much agree with a part of what was said. But the part I agree with is I think it would be great to have an online streaming platform in Europe that would be able to show the films everywhere in the world, that the films we do. So I think that's amazing. Nobody would disagree with that, I believe, except for maybe the people who have the market right now. Maybe they would disagree. And I think I would put it like this in terms of defining the conversation, at least for myself as a producer, that's how I see it. I might be wrong. But I feel in Portugal, at least, and again, my experience is limited to the reality I know, but I see a monopoly in distribution and exhibition. And this monopoly has been created a long time ago. It was not even the last 10 years or 30 years. It comes from the Second World War. The issue that is identified by Agnieszka is also felt in many other fields of production, of industry. We are indeed, in many aspects, a cultural colony of North America, or the United States, to be more precise. But I think we are because we also wanted to be. I'm not like making the good versus the bad or some evil thing here. I think people wanted this. So the issue is, for me, why would we make different films if the audiences here, they already have the films that maybe they want, assuming it's true what she was saying, they come from America. Why would we do the same films? We don't need them because they already come from America. Then why wouldn't we make something different? We do something different, and then perhaps they are not perhaps, for sure, they're not seen by the audiences as much as we wish they would. But here I like to bring to the conversation another side of the discussion, which is it's not only the fault of filmmakers in the broader sense of the word, even not only directors or producers or actors or technicians, that the films are not seen. I mean, in the United States, at least, but also in Asia, half of the budget goes to marketing. And if people don't know a film exists, for sure they will not search to see it. So if we want films to be sold more and more, I think we must invest in marketing. And we have, as we know, a production system in Europe that depends greatly on public funding. So if we want to change things soon, I think there must come some public funding, not some, a lot, to promoting the films. It's not enough to just say to the filmmakers, do something different, because I'm quite sure that if I was given by some investor, it doesn't have to be public, enough funding to produce, and not only the funding, but with the objective of just making some good numbers of audience, I think I or all of us here, we could make those films, but perhaps they would not be seen either because they cannot enter the market, I think, as just like that. The market belongs to certain companies, and they already have what they want. They produce good films, the things are working, so it's not easy to change things, but I think it's in the interest of Europe that we change things. I would just like to add this point.
This is interesting question you mentioned at the beginning. If we are culture colony, if we agree on this, Anamaria, it made your day today that there is a nomination for Romanian film for Oscars. Do you feel that you're colonized through this?
I don't know. Even though we managed to do this important step finally for Romania, because our country has never been nominated to any of the Oscars, and now we have, like, with the same film, 2 nominations also for international film and documentary. Still, it's I never thought of us being colonized, but maybe what I would add to what Pedro said is that, of course, we cannot ignore the increasing offer, constantly increasing offer and content that comes on the market. And year by year, I consider there are more and more films, European films, coming and being developed and produced. So, which makes it more difficult to access and the audience. So maybe we just need, as Pedro said, if your film is in, let's say, in competition with another 100 film, while years ago maybe it was with 20 other films, then how do you make it? And what tools do you use in order to reach the audience before other films will do that? So it's, of course, we are, and personally as a producer, especially with young talent, we are like challenging them and advising them to dare more and come with out of the box stories and reinvent themselves and try to come with new proposals. But it's not enough. It's not enough in order to just reinvent the cinema. It takes more. And I agree with Pedro when he says that we need more funding sources, more diverse, also marketing funding, and so. But I wouldn't call it maybe a lazy style, because it's I think it's been proved that if you try to do the same type of cinema as the established authors before you did it, it would be tough to make it out there and establish yourself as a voice. So you need to come with a fresh approach. And I believe that we just need as producer to push our authors more into that direction. But still, I believe that the European cinema is still playing its role very well, but it just does not have the same opportunities as the American, the US industry has.
Actually, I have to say that I think that at the moment, European cinema is really facing a huge crisis. Because, for example, in case of the Czech Republic, and I really don't think it's the only country at the moment, many big cinemas don't want to open cinemas at the moment because they don't have US content. So it's not only a question if it's possible or not, but they are afraid that if they will open cinemas but will not have fresh films from American studios, they might, not attract new audiences. And actually, I would see this as a chance for European filmmakers, because this might really create a gap. But I don't know if European filmmakers are ready to use this opportunity. Jasmina, yeah, I wanted to ask you, what is the French perspective? And,
Yes.
most of the producers, you are living in European heaven, yeah, in terms of financing films. So do you feel comfortable when it gets to competition between Europe and American production?
Well, it is interesting what you were saying about Czech cinemas who didn't want to open, which actually what happened this summer in French cinemas when they opened after the first lockdown, there was a big stress about this postponing of big US blockbusters who usually fill up these multiplex cinemas. And actually, the situation was quite amazing, because suddenly a lot of other films got space finally to be shown in cinemas. And actually people went to see them, because when we complain that we don't see these films or they don't make audience, it is because I don't know the exact numbers now, and I don't want to say some stupid stuff, but it's really a big majority of screens for a very long time are occupied by films that they have audience, but they don't have audience all the way through their 6-month run. They just have means to be able to have a 6-month run because cinemas want them. The studios can afford it with publicity, I guess. But for the independent cinema that is coming from France, for example, the time is very, very limited. Like the life of a film in a cinema is a 1 week. So if within 1 week you don't make enough numbers as the cinema considers viable for them, you're just out. So it is very severe competition between us and them in terms of how much space do we have to survive, you know, and it's not about the quality. And then I think the problem, no, or I don't know if it's a problem. I think we have to believe that people actually are interested in different content, that like the mainstream content that is available, it's available everywhere, on streaming, in cinemas. It can be interesting, but if we don't provide something different to people, if we don't provide them in a space they are used to, that they don't have to go to look for a niche festival in, I don't know where, Velká Lhota, or I don't even know if it exists in Czech Republic, or some Malá Lhota. You have to go to see this niche film with 50 people. Okay, I will do it because I'm interested, but to provide those people who want to go just round the block, because in France it is possible, there are many cinemas still, and it is a real paradise. But even those are occupied by other titles, then what their sign would, you would mean that it means that, okay, this is the niche place where I go, but I don't have to go all the way, I don't know where, to look for it. And then streaming platforms, maybe they would help to, but Netflix, I think, is doing this now, also buying out like the catalogs, just to have a prestige catalog and say, okay, you can also watch this, but which in a way it's a bit, I don't know exactly what to think about it still, you know, if it's if we should go there, or we should try to make another way of or in like a concurrent platform that actually really focuses on this. Because I don't really watch Netflix. I don't know. I mean, I know how it looks like and what it is, but I don't consume it like in my life. And I can still like see a lot of other films, quality films that I consider quality films, and producing the same content or in the same way as the North American cinematography does. I don't know. I think it's very vast. Also, it's a very vast cinematography. There are so many great things happening in the US, as there are so many not great things. But it happens also in France. There are so many good films there, and there are some bad films. But there are some bad films that get out very easily, and they're watched by many people. But it depends what we're looking for when we go to cinema, if it's entertainment, if it's education, if it's
Exactly.
it depends on what you're doing. So
exactly. It's a difference.
I know that I'm not.
Sorry.
No.
Please.
Go.
No. Sorry. Exactly. I just wanted to underline what you said, that it's a matter of, I believe the European cinema has this, wants to, you know, it has a cultural purpose, while American industry has a more commercial purpose behind it. So this is from where the difference also from the art house cinema and multiplexes comes. And in Romania, we have less and less art house cinemas. And of course, it's difficult for the Romanian and European films to make it out there, and the lineup of the multiplexes is, Jasmina said, it's like after 1 week, they will just end their life there.
Actually, I have to say that I think that we really can use this crisis in terms of wider European visibility in European cinemas, and not only cinemas, but audiovisual sector. But I don't see any decisions which are made that will, you know, bring us closer to this state. So maybe the problem is that there is no European cinema at all. Radim, what do you think? Or it's West European cinema, or is it just French and German cinema? Or where is the cinema in Europe from your perspective?
Oh, it's a wide question. Just if I can briefly add to your original quote from Agnieszka, Holland, that it's half true, you know, from many perspectives. Like, for example, if you take in account the festivals, documentary film festivals, through these years, which he named as a increasing crisis and stuff like that, this big network of European documentary film festivals attracted a huge amount of people coming there, and it's alternative to cinemas. To that, it's not Dolní Lhota, as Jasmina says, and niche festivals. They are quite mass. If you come to the European level and you see all of them, or these biggest ones, so it's really and collective Romanian film, congratulations for that, is produced from money from HBO, the American VOD provider. So it's also quite exception in speaking about European and US. But back to your question, it's for me it's Czech cinema, Romanian cinema, French cinema, Portuguese cinema, which has to find a way how to make it into the European level, how to be appealing, how to be interesting for international audience. When it's interesting when European producers come together, they most usually speak, or quite often speak, about American films. I mean, not about James Bond, of course, that's something which is not their taste, but about Netflix new production, this last one, Black and White, which is now also the biggest number of nominations got, which is about filmmakers. It's good. So they even producers, I would say, they don't know so well productions in other countries, or they don't feel that it's somehow interesting for them or important for them. They see them afterwards through the festivals. Of course, that's another topic that we can discuss. Certain festivals and films selected there, then it somehow come to the common interest of us. But I think this is important thing, how to, even for the niche audience, but niche audience within such a big region as Europe is one of the biggest united states. So even niche audience is still big enough for good films to be produced for them, and collective is good example. It's when it's interesting, when it's intense story, when it's about nowadays, when it's when it's well done, of course, from the cinematic point of view, then it's and it's becoming European film. And it's same with Radu Jude, new film which won Berlinale quite recently. This is film which is also about nowadays, reflecting nowadays state of mind and state of culture and state of the pandemic situation. He brought during the production of the film, pandemic started, and he just made it to have face masks in the story. Most of producers of most of productions has to fight with masks on the set, so they had to convince their governments to take them off and continue in production. But Radu Jude, as a European/Romanian artist, made an advantage out of this. Face masks became important prop of his film. So this is those two ways, Romanian examples, for me are examples of how to make it from the national level, rooted in national culture, into the Europe on the European level. But for sure, they are not able to compete with James Bond. That's not.
That's the problem, that you are, Radim, talking about good films, and I agree, definitely. In Europe, there are many, many very good films, but probably they are not good enough for our cinemas, for owners of multiplexes. And that's actually the problem. And Pedro, what do you think if American studios will not, release new hits for European cinemas? So what we desperately are waiting for, maybe we can find these films in China? Or where should European owners of European cinemas should find, blockbusters?
It's a very good question. Thank you, Marek. I agree with everything that is being said so far. Well, I told Marek the other day a story that happened to me when I had a meeting with the person responsible for the biggest chain of cinemas in Portugal. Not only the biggest, but they have close to 80 or 90% of the market. Um, I went there to show him the film I produced, which already got 20 international awards. It premiered at the Berlinale. It has been sold to 10 territories. It's doing very well. It's the Portuguese film this year that has done the best in those kinds of ways of analyzing things. And he was complaining about European cinema. He told me our film still didn't have the right commercial appeal, and that European cinema didn't have it, and that he couldn't open the cinemas during when the pandemic finishes because he didn't have enough American content, like Jasmina said. And I told him, so then why don't you show some Chinese blockbusters? I was watching online the news, seeing the news, and apparently there's really big, massive Chinese productions that have done enormously well in the Chinese market. They have their science fiction. They have all the ingredients, explosions, big budget. The trailer I watched looked a bit like Armageddon. And I told him that, and he didn't want to listen. He told me, "Oh, you want me to screen Tsai Ming Liang?" And I said, No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about mainstream Chinese films." And he was silent. And I understood that he couldn't screen even the Chinese blockbuster film because he has contracts with the American majors. When he wants to buy the Avengers, for instance, he has to buy all these 50 other American films. And if he has a deal with China now to screen the blockbusters, he might lose the American gold mine that he has. So he can't take risks, and he doesn't own anything in the market. The American provider owns the market. Even if we are just talking about commercial films that have a proven track record as a commercial success. And then I would like just to finish with another story that I didn't tell Marek, because I only saw it a couple of days ago. Well, we had a revolution in 1974. We had a dictatorship before in Portugal, and we had censorship. And this 2 days ago, I saw a video from a TV reportage in like the months after the revolution, asking people randomly in the streets, what did they think about the cinema that was being screened in the theaters? And I thought, oh, this is interesting. What will they say? I had no idea about the context. And every person in the street said, I don't know why all cinemas now are screening pornography. And I didn't know about this. Apparently, when we had the revolution, suddenly there was freedom, no more censorship. All the cinemas, they just screened pornography. Like all the cinemas, you couldn't watch anything else. And I think this is, in a way, what is happening right now, but in a different, not with pornography. I think there are many good American films, but that's all people want to watch. If you just give the easiest thing to the audience, and it's just the only thing they can choose for many, many years, then, and if you just think about the profit, then you might as well just screen pornography. I mean, this was a real phenomenon. I'm not making this up. I think it's what's happened, and I will finish. In Lisbon, for instance, we had many old local shops, like we have old local European films. And with tourism, with gentrification, all these unique special stores, they closed. And we have now franchises, like probably the same thing in every European city. And why is that? Because they give a higher rate of profit. Strictly in an economic point of view, it's much better to have franchises than they will give you 100 in profit and not 10. 10 is profit, but it's not enough. And I think it's what many distributors think. Like it's like this. I'm not. Who am I to say this? I mean, they are risking money. They might go bankrupt if they screen films that are very niche. I don't want them to screen films that people don't want to watch. I produce films that I want people to watch. But I think we have to risk something in Europe and everywhere, and start giving the audience for some years different things, the things we produce, and then maybe the people start to like it. In Portugal, just to finish quickly, I'm sorry, we don't really have, have never had a mainstream Portuguese cinema, like a cinematography that is like consistently mainstream. But we have audiovisual mainstream. It's on television. We have excellent soap operas, and the market is satisfied with that. So, I mean, we need to show people that likes the soap operas that there's something else, and people will take time to enjoy it. That's it.
Yeah, actually, I think you mentioned several important things. For example, you mentioned several times investors and investing. This is the difference between European way how to make films, most of, and US. Because in US, you have mostly the investors who are investing in cinema, but the most of European films are produced thanks to support of various film funds or other institutions. And this is a huge change or a big difference. And it's not only linked to the way how the films are made, but also how they are distributed. Because, okay, we spoke about cinemas, seeing that the European cinemas are not so happy for screening European films. It's not enough for them. Even in France, they probably had to be open. What might be the way to keep them open, the cinemas, even if there are no films at the moment, yeah, to push them to open cinemas if it would be possible in terms of pandemic. But I want to speak about the streamers because many people are thinking that, you know, that it's just joy that people are doing it in the same way as in Europe. Yeah, they love cinema, they produce films. But for example, behind Netflix, there is investment of $5 billion. So you can ask who is investing this money, yeah? Probably, of course, film studios. And I don't know if in Europe anybody is thinking about this superpower behind, for example, Netflix, that they have such a huge amount of money, because now there is like creating a new distribution channel, not physical in cinemas, but virtual through different streamers. So I don't know, maybe online is a tool. And it's also actually the first question we have received. What about movies for internet, maybe with free access, not for festivals and TV? Might this be an option? What do you think, Anamaria?
Depending on the country, and if streamers came to that country, for example, in Romania, it's not like it's doing films for Netflix or any other streamer. It's an option, and I don't go for it or just go and grab it. It's a bit more complicated. It's like, as you said, you need these investors to come and invest in different films. For sure, if this opportunity would be on the market, then also the talent and producer would look more into also proposing content projects to be a bit more commercial or mainstream, to call it. But depending on the financing opportunities in each country, then you just you adapt and you develop the projects that can be financed. And I believe that in European countries, at least from my side, from the Eastern, in the Eastern countries, still the streamers are not coming. And probably it's a matter because in Romania, there are not so many. I believe that the number of the
subscribers,
yeah, it's like 1.2 people that have that are paying to watch Netflix or HBO Go or other streaming platforms. So for them, I believe they don't see necessarily winning something or enough if they come and produce original content in Romania, because the number of the paying people, I'm just missing the term that you use for
Subscribers.
subscribers. Yeah. So it's not Poland, for example, it's working very well, but they're also the country probably with a big number of subscribers. So I believe, again, this is the proof that they come when they see that they can get revenues from a certain territory. And Jasmina was telling earlier that they are coming more into Europe and buying content for their catalog. I believe is that they are making more steps towards our territories, and they need to have content and European content on their platforms. So this is like a first step, but maybe I'm not sure if necessarily that they want to have quality or art house titles for prestige. It's more that they need to reach a quote coming to Europe.
Jasmina, you wanted to...
Well, they are very, like on French market, they're becoming more and more present, and actually they are starting to produce the content with local filmmakers for Netflix. There was a TV series about jazz that was shot actually in my courtyard, and funny enough, my tenants of my courtyard were not happy with the way the Netflix was doing their stuff, and we kicked them out, and they had to change the set and shoot the series somewhere else. So this is also France, because they didn't care.
This is how you fight with Netflix, I see.
Yes. The tenants decided, you know. So, but which is also interesting thing, and this is probably nobody speaks about this, and I thought it was really quite shocking, is that when the pandemic started, it has nothing to do directly with producing a film. But as you know, French system is quite subsidized. We are quite protected as workers in culture and film, music, theater. We do have a lot of privileges, and thanks to these privileges, actually, we can do things that, I mean, I can produce films that I'm producing, and I don't have to do a side job to earn money and then to do something in the evening, you know. Actually, producing films is my job. So what I was quite surprised is that when pandemic started, we had a lot of help coming from the States, from different ministries. And for our special department, not from the Ministry of Culture, but there is one kind of special department that saves money for when you are retired. So you give them some money when you get retired. Actually, they I don't know how it happened, but they got together with Netflix, and Netflix gave a flat support to anybody who was belonging to this system. So we all are, because we are paying to this like place. When you pay your salaries, percentage goes to this part, and when you get retired, you get money back, which is quite like you pay a tax. It's great. And then Netflix actually got together with them, and each of us had a right to receive 500 euros as help, being financed by Netflix. And it was official. It was like you know, you just subscribe and it arrives 2 days later. I mean, well, I have to confess I did it because I was so surprised. I mean, I was like, what the hell, you know, this is crazy. And actually it works. So, you know, and then I thought, okay, this is something really strange, because it gets around by different means. And actually people do watch. They stream, especially now, a lot. But then France has a lot of platforms other than Netflix that provide a good quality films, because there are a lot of co-productions with France. So actually there are a lot of French films that are not probably majority, but they're minority French, and we consider them as French, and we can watch a lot of them online. But as for a French, like contemporary French cinema, in theaters, it is still like it is difficult. You have to be in a way, you have to be in the system to get advantages of the system. But to get into a system, it's not an obvious thing either. We think it's a paradise, but it's quite a heavy, it's a traffic jam, as we spoke about it, like to get into the paradise, really. You're like in front of the door, you know it's there, but to get there, it's... and then also it's an old country with a lot of old habits, and it was also a cinema that was created by groups. So these groups still exist, and they still keep local groups. They still keep part of the market, which is they're used to be in this position. So being independent in France today, like small companies, where there are many. So it's a survival. We're in a survival mode. You know,
there are many not paid by Netflix. Yeah, there are some Netflix, but many not paid. And what about your case, Anamaria? You're paid by Netflix in COVID?
No, we're not paid. And what I wanted maybe to add and to answer a bit the first question, why not just go and do movies for internet, is even though, let's say, Netflix would come to Romania and commission, production, it's, again, what they do is that they start paying. Let's say you make a deal and they pay you a certain amount for that production. You need to do the production, and then they will start paying once you deliver. So as independent producer, our companies are quite small. It would be impossible just finance a full production and then just wait after you deliver to Netflix to get the money from them. So again, this is a system, and you understand maybe how they work, that you need to have a certain level and financial independence in order to make this kind of films. Maybe they are not 1 million euros or 800. Maybe you do like a 200. I could make it, maybe do like a light comedy, very nice one in Romania with 200,000 euros or something, but still that's quite a big amount for me as an independent producer to cash flow it and then wait once I deliver to start getting money, being paid by Netflix, let's say. So it's not like an option that you don't grab. And then for me personally, and I believe it's for most of the independent producer and doing author-driven productions and international productions, is I'm passionate about the process, about the creative producing, developing together with the writer and with the director, while in the movies with the mainstream movies, it's a bit a different process. As Jasmina was telling, maybe they do differently the production on how we treat talent and all the collaborators when we're talking about an art house film.
Okay, thank you. Radim, please. So we have a question from Ranaji. Why should there be a feeling of us versus them when it comes to quality content in cinema? I feel that independent filmmakers everywhere in the world will be benefited by less barrier to entry and lack of algorithmic monopoly through streaming platforms. What means that maybe we should secure cinemas just for independent filmmakers, and move the business content to streamers. But do you think that it's us versus them, or you feel like more not in this kind of mental setup, that it's versus European versus American, or Czech versus American, or East European versus West European, or?
Oh, well, yes and no. It's always fight with somebody else, fight for the money on the market or in the film fund. So in some way it is, and in some way, of course, when you say Agnieszka Holland, quote from her, I'm thinking how to oppose her, because somehow I feel like her films are, at least we see them in Czech and then Czech scenes like this good mainstream, while I'm doing, you know, good art house or niche films. So somehow I'm sort of fight with her, or try to see distinction between her films and my films. Coming to another field, it's nonsense, and we have to be somehow together. So it's also about this, you know what I mean. In certain situations, they think from certain perspective, and in different one, and different. So it's with Netflix. It's funny. It's really the most used word in I think among filmmakers or film producers last 3 years. Big stories about how they deal in Poland with them and how they feel it. So we all hate them and love them in same time. I sold them my debut, which is now 15 years old, for quite surprisingly good money, and it's art house film. So I was also happy about it, and I try to negotiate with them my new productions. Some of them, of course, I try to estimate which ones will be fitting to their program. So somehow yes, and somehow no. What I can add more.
So let's wrap it up. You know, definitely there are many people who can make decisions are listening to us or will listen to you later, because it would be possible to watch this stream later, of course. So what would you suggest to people in Brussels or in governments, what they should do, what they should change to support European cinema and your position to make European cinema, you know, more visible and more powerful? So maybe let's start with Pedro, who didn't talk for a while, and then let's continue. So this is your last speech, yeah? So let's really use the power of it, please.
Thank
you. Inspire.
Thank you. I would say it's marketing, more money to promote the films, and I would suggest let's make a website where anyone can know where to watch a film they want to watch. I don't mean let's make an European Netflix. I mean every week, I'm sure it's the same for my fellow producers here, I get messages from people I know and who know I produce films asking me where they can watch a certain film. It's not only the films I produced. The films in Cannes, in Berlin, whatever, they are asking me, because I'm supposed to know, because I'm an insider, where they can watch the films. People want to watch the films, but they don't know where to find them. And that's why Netflix or other websites and providers, they had the success they had, because it's easy to find the films. So I would say, let's make a database where I'm not talking about buying the rights for all films and put them in a website. That's impossible. And that would be controlling the market. But it's a tool like the Yellow Pages, I think there was, for to find a phone number, to find a film you want to see. And then it redirects you to where you can watch it. Only that would be an amazing tool. Other ideas can appear. I will just finish with a small story that I also read the other day about when it was the vital moment for cinema as an art or as a business or as whatever to impose itself as the main art of the 20th century. And I was very impressed when it was. It was the Spanish flu, the last pandemic, that made all the theaters where there were plays with actors, like theatrical theaters, they were closed, they were bankrupt, and the film companies bought all of them and turned them into cinemas. The same thing is happening now, but the cinemas are closing and we are buying the market online. So it's redefining the market. And that's why it's very important we're having this conversation. I agree we have a crisis, but let's be open about the solutions. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Pedro. So please create these Yellow Film Pages. Otherwise, we will have to spread your cell phone number to everybody who needs to know which films visible where. Please, Anamaria, from your experience, what would help you to, attract wider audiences and make films for wider audiences?
Yeah, I would start with more development money, so we can take the time and look a bit more carefully into the project that we are deciding as producers to bring to the audience, to help bring to be brought to the audience. And then again, more marketing and promotion, and super important, access to data, because this way we will know, and maybe all the players in the market, streamers included, to be forced to give access to the data, would help us a lot to know who is watching what and from where, because then when we develop our next projects, we will know a bit better what is the audience to our project in development. And then it's up to us, producers, directors, writers, to start thinking about the audience earlier in the process, not only when the film is almost finished, but think about the audience from the development, while using this data that you have, and okay, a project that was, my film maybe was watched or did very well in China, in cinemas, or did well in America on a specific streaming platform, and so on. And this way, we will be forced to identify the audience, or at least we will have more tools to do that. And it's up to us to analyze maybe the elements in our story that address which specific audience, and then we use marketing and promotion to attract this audience from an early stage. And when the film will be ready, we will know to whom to go.
Thank you very much. Please, Radim, when I spoke to Pedro, he told me that there is also lack of investors in Europe compared to US. So maybe you should also wish more private investors investing in cinema. And in general, we should more trust in European cinema, in this label, or maybe we should create it. But this is more my thought. What is your thoughts to support European cinema today?
Okay, well, I don't think there is a space for investors, at least within the projects which I do, or which we all, I think in general, it's really not investment. You can't make the money back. You have to support them, because it's cultural, it's art, and it doesn't really make profit in that sense. But what I wanted to say to the people in Brussels and anywhere else, as you originally said, I would tell them, try to help projects which you like, which you would like to see in the cinemas, but in the same time, take care about your taste. Try to work on your taste, to improve it, to recognize good quality. And also from the perspective of the region, people in Western Europe, I would tell them, try to change a little bit perspective of the Eastern Europe. Try to find the interest in it. It's not. It's also changing and developing. There are still topics and films which are interesting for you to support or to watch.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Radim. And the last word from Jasmina.
No, I will agree with Radim, because I was thinking about this audience and profit, and to be honest, maybe it's not the good thing what the producer will say. It's not that I don't think about it, but it's true that the first moment of jumping into a project is not exactly this. It develops then during the life of the film, and we want films to be seen, but it's true that it's not. It doesn't really. I don't want this figure to change the way that I work with the people that I work with, and that their mind is set. So I think we all are a little bit stressed about this figure that we are not making profit, and if you're not making profit, you are not worth to exist. And I wish that this kind of disappears from, or at least is not the first thing that we think of if we make cinema, because certain types of films, I think, are made to exist and are worth to exist, and they're not made to make profit. This is also why I think on few of my films, investors would not come because it's too risky for them. So, and I'm not even calling them, but if they want to invest, as you said, Radim, and not to expect them like the turnover afterwards, I'm happy to invite them to join us on the journey, because it's long, but it's very rich. So I think we should support culture. Actually, we should support the creation of images, of thoughts, and not think only about the profit, because I think these spaces where profit is made, they exist already, and there is a lot of money in it, and they are self-sufficient in a way, because they do invest in themselves, and they create more money, and then they reinvest, and which is, for me, it's perfectly fine. I just think that we should not get like covered, or we should not get eaten by those. This is my call for freedom.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So it's a very nice ending. Let's create space for non-business, yeah, and support it, because it's in a way European background, background of culture. Thinking when we are thinking about art, we think subspecie aeternitatis, yeah. We think in long term, much longer than business can be made. Yes. Fortunately or unfortunately. So hopefully European cinema will survive this crisis we are facing, and we will keep our position in cinemas, and not only in cinemas, but also in streaming services. Thank you very much for sharing your time and thoughts with us. Thanks a lot to Anamaria Antoci, Jasmina Sijerčić, Pedro, Fernandes, Duarte, and Radim Procházka. Thank you, and let's follow your work, and good luck with your films. Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.